The Surface Pro is due for a big ol' update, so today what I'm doing is I'm rounding up some of the rumors out there and I'm going to be talking about what we can come to expect in the upcoming Surface Pro 7. So first off, let's talk about when we can actually expect to see it. Recently, the Surface Pro line has been on about a 1.5-year production schedule, which means if we were just going to guess, I would say that we'd expect to see something new in the spring of 2020. Now, early in the product cycle, it was updating more often. The Surface Pro 1, 2, 3 came out pretty quickly, one after the other. But since the Surface Pro 4, we've kind of moved to this 18-month cycle, and that's made sense because we've seen smaller, more incremental updates as we go. Since some people are expecting a bigger update to the Surface Pro 7, we might see something a little earlier, possibly holiday 2019. Time will tell. I think more importantly is what we want and what we can expect to see in this new Surface Pro. There's the obvious stuff out there like the newer processors and normal configuration stuff. Intel's Ice Lake processors are supposedly coming out this fall, holiday 2019. As everybody knows, ever since Intel switched over to making their processors underwater in actual lakes, there have been numerous delays and technical setbacks because the water.
Brad knows computers.
But in all seriousness, if we see the new Surface Pro this fall, I wouldn't expect to see those Ice Lake processors. If we do see it in the spring, there's a much better chance of those being in there. The Surface Pro 6 has a standard USB port, and even the Surface Go has swapped that out for the newer USBCs. It seems pretty obvious that we would see a USB-C/Thunderbolt 3 port on the new Surface Pro. Now, there is a patent floating out there for Microsoft. They're working on a magnetic USB-C 3 port, similar to the power charging ports that they've used on the last couple Surfaces. Is it Surfi? Is that the plural? If they can figure out a way to slide more USB-C ports onto that thing by removing the power charger but keeping the magnetic aspects of it, that would be awesome. Not holding my breath for that one, but I would love to see it. One area where the Surface Pro feels older to a lot of other devices like the iPad Pro is the screen. Now, the screen itself on the Surface Pro 6 is absolutely beautiful, but what I'm talking about are the bezels around the side. They're pretty wide, with phones slimming down and some really hot looking laptops slimming down too. Looking at you, Dell XPS 13. A screen upgrade makes a ton of sense for Microsoft's next flagship tablet. Of course, maybe not with the camera bump though. You can go home now, Mr. Bump, we don't need you. One of my favorite parts of the Surface lines are the keyboard covers. They feel great to type on. In fact, I wrote this video script on my little Surface Go cover. I love it, it's so cute. Some people are looking for clues in some recent patents Microsoft has been filing. One is for etching the circuit board directly on the keyboard, which in theory could reduce the width or the height of the cover. Another one shows the ability to write on the back of the Surface? That's weird. But if you took some kind of tech like that, put it on the keyboard cover, maybe in place of the trackpad or working in conjunction with the trackpad, that could be kind of cool. I read one rumor where they speculated that it might replace the entire keyboard cover with something like this. I don't see that. I love the feel of a tactile keyboard. And I don't think I'm alone on this. I think the clickiness of the keyboard is one of the things that keeps those keyboard covers at their current thickness, and I think it's a trade-off that most people are fine with making. We've seen people experiment with this before, like this Lenovo Yoga from a couple years back. It didn't review too well because people like keyboards. There are also some new Hinge patents. I really like the Hinge on the Surface Pro. I trust Microsoft. If they're trying to make it better, I say go for it. One of the things that I like about typing on the Surface Pro, or even the Surface Go, which is what I've been using more recently, is that the Hinge together with the keyboard makes it work in pretty much any position. On the couch, kicking my legs up at my desk, anywhere that I want to use it. It's really comfortable, and that's something that it has over, say, the iPad Pro keyboards that I've played around with, which are really designed just to be used on desks. Now, I haven't touched too much on the pen in the illustration part, which is really the core of my channel here, so let's jump into that. As an illustrator, I would absolutely love to see an overhaul of the Surface Pen, but I really don't think that's going to happen. Here's why I don't expect it. Microsoft has done a really good job of standardizing the Surface Pen across the entire line. You got the Surface Studio? Sweet, you get a pen. You got the Surface Go? Here's your pen. Surface Book? No problem, have a pen. If it says Surface on it, it works with the Surface Pen, with the one exception being the Surface headphones. But really, only one guy was asking for that, and I'm pretty sure that's the same dude who wants to be able to play Fortnite on his watch. Now, from a marketing and consumer understanding standpoint, I think this is is all fantastic. It's really easy to find a pen that works on your device, and as Microsoft releases a new pen, those are backwards compatible with old devices. This is a really consumer-friendly move and something you almost never see in tech, and this is something that I think Microsoft really should be applauded for. You go to the store, you get a brand new Surface Pen, you can use that thing on any Surface device that has come out since the Surface Pro 3 in 2014. Now at this point you might be asking yourself, why doesn't it work on the Surface Pro 1 and the Surface Pro 2 as well? Well, the reason why is those older devices use Wacom's technology for their pens. Starting with the Surface Pro 3, they moved over to N-Trig technology. In fact, about a year later, Microsoft actually went out and bought N-Trig. And ever since then, they've been using that in the Surface Pen across all of their devices. Now, if you've watched any of my reviews in the past, you probably know I'm not a big fan of N-Trig pens. Most illustrators just aren't. The question parrot! Today's question, why do illustrators hate N-Trig? All right, it's not that we hate N-Trig, we just don't like it as much as Wacom's tech. Now, every piece of technology has a trade-off associated with it, and the trade-off that you're making with any Wacom pen, for example, that you're using on a touch display is oftentimes your palm will register a fake touch when you're resting it on the screen. So you might accidentally select a layer, or it might leave a line where your hand was resting. Now with N-Trig, that's not a trade-off you're gonna make. The palm rejection on N-Trig tends to be much, much better. However, the trade-off you are gonna make with N-Trig technology is that there's a fair amount of wiggle or jitter with the pen when you're drawing with it, especially if you're drawing angle lines and you're drawing them slowly. If you're taking notes, doing handwriting, doing most of the tasks that people are gonna do with these pens, it just doesn't matter. You're not gonna notice it and you're not gonna care about it. If you're drawing quickly or sketching, again, you're not gonna notice or care about it. However, if you're looking for really precise, clean line work, which unfortunately is one of the main things that I look for in my work, it doesn't work really very well at all. You can use some software to straighten that out. There's some built into Photoshop, Clip Studio, there's some third-party stuff out there as well. However, there's a trade-off to that too, because you're going to lose some accuracy, especially at the back end of your strokes. Now, oftentimes when I mention this in my video to non-artists, there's some skepticism, like, doesn't your hand have some natural shake to it? Absolutely, it does. That's totally true. But to any artist or illustrator who's used to using Wacom's tech, or has used a Wacom tablet, or has even used an iPad the last couple of years, if you move over to the Surface Pen, you're immediately gonna notice that difference. For example, I'm from Cleveland. I'm used to driving in snow, I'm used to driving in ice, and you get a feel for how the car reacts when you're on a slippery surface. Is it the tires, or did I just hit a patch of ice? This is something that after driving on it for years and years and years, you just kind of instinctively know. It is a feel, you understand it. It's the same thing with your pen. If you've been drawing and illustrating for years and all of a sudden you pick something up and you're like, okay, this is a little off. You can pick it up if you do some different kinds of pen tests and things like that, but it's just something you just kind of have to get a feel for over time. Something I would love to see in the Surface Pro 7 is a big leap forward in N-Trig technology. If they can still make the pen backwards compatible, that would be even better. But really what I want are smoother, cleaner lines, especially angled lines and slower strokes. I'm not sure right now there's an incentive for Microsoft to do that. The creative market is fairly small. The broader market doesn't really care. The only device where it really matters is like the Surface Studio, which really markets itself that way to creatives, being able to pull it down and whatnot. That's another video for another time. And I will say this, I think Microsoft, from a business standpoint, made the right choice going with N-Trig over Wacom. Because again, most people are going to notice the palm rejection when it's not working 100% all the time, but they're not really gonna notice the jitter, especially if you're writing or drawing or just using the pen to navigate. So on Microsoft's end, that was a trade-off that makes a lot of sense. But if they can improve the technology going forward, I would love to see it. We just haven't seen any real good jumps forward the last 2 or 3 iterations of the Surface line. If you would like to hear my thoughts on the Surface Pro and the Surface Go from the point of view of an illustrator, I have those reviews over there. And if you would like to learn more about drawing and illustration in general, I'm doing a drawing course in my email newsletter delivered to your inbox every other week with homework assignments and some things you can be practicing and getting better at. There's a sign-up link for that down below. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in a couple of days.